Singer, songwriter, and best-selling author Andrew Greer is sharing a passion project, Sunday school lessons from the late President Jimmy Carter. They're in his book, More Than a President, Sundays with Jimmy Carter.
The time for racial discrimination is over.
Tell me about More Than a President, Sundays with Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, the book, my first connection with Plains, Georgia, long before I directed Plain Spoken and wrote that for PBS, it was probably a couple years after I graduated from college. I was full into my songwriter career, and I learned that President Carter, a former leader of the free world, taught Sunday school at the small A-frame church in a town of 500 people in Southwest Georgia. It was unbelievable to me that they would commit, and he would commit essentially half of his weekends, half of his Sundays a year to come teach Sunday school in this small town. Of course, his lifelong hometown. But we really wanted to dig in deeper because of the insights that he provides as a part of world history, and then actually teaching from a text that he loves, the Bible, but that also has its own place in a world in ancient history. So kind of marrying that history together provides really, I think, a unique, texture.
If you had to pull out the greatest lesson, what would it be?
Well, it truly is. I mean, he was always circling back to Matthew 22, love God, love your neighbor, all the law and the prophets hinge on these two things. I think the way that he hit on love came through his experience in the world and his relationships with people, and that he was always challenging the us versus them thing, which I think culturally we're even deeper, we're knee deep into this us versus them kind of mentality, regardless of who us is and who them is. And he was always highlighting that we don't set the table. God has set the table and has invited everyone to that table. So our opportunity is simply the gift of love.
I know that Mike Pence
yeah,
read the book.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and I love one of the things he said. He said that
he's a Republican.
Yes.
Okay.
And he said he inspired generations of believers in both political parties, including me. In this new book, Andrew Greer invites future generations to take a seat in a pew and listen in on the Sunday school lessons of this good and great man.
Mm-hmm. It's almost kind of astonishing, I think, in our modern world and in modern politics, that there would be something that would get us across the aisle. Mm-hmm. So I love, as someone who's attempting to follow Jesus, that the way of Jesus could still potentially be that poignant. That it doesn't matter who I'm voting for today, there is a meeting point for us, and that meeting point is Jesus.
Were you able to sit in and be on the receiving end of the Sunday school lessons at any point?
Yes. And what's interesting is, I didn't indicate this in the book, but one of the chapters is December 9th, 2007. And that's the first Sunday I ever visited. And I was listening to the tape. It happens to be I listened to hundreds to see which might translate best to the page. It did translate well. And I was thrilled because he would always call out at the beginning of lessons, where's everybody from? You'd have people from China, from Ghana, you'd have rabbis and imams and pastors, and then people from all kinds of states. And I heard, some dummy in the back go, Tennessee! And it was me, I was like, this feels very full circle. Things we don't know, how they kind of come back into play. And so, yes, I was able to experience
What do you think he would think?
Oh, I don't know. He'd probably find the typos. He was a very accomplished author, as you know, and himself. But he did know that the project was coming out, and he did know that I was stewarding it. I hope that he would be honored that people would have interest in his insights into Scripture. And hopefully that some of the applications that he finds from Scripture for himself, and he asks the congregation to also take with them, hopefully readers will take with them too. Yeah, I think that would be the biggest honor to President Carter, is that people would apply these beautiful concepts in the gospel of humility and love.
More Than a President, Sundays with Jimmy Carter is available wherever you purchase your reading material.